Okay, so, just got back. How's he doing, doctor? Well, he just woke up, but he's been in a coma since 2019. 2019? Dude, he's missed everything. Look, it's best to just let him down easy, you know, explain things in little chunks. You don't want to overwhelm him. I mean, this is a big jump for him. Hey, apple a day keeps the doctor away. Don't you fucking dare. Hey, ain't no party like a Diddy party. No, okay. Oh, Lord. Okay, yeah, that's, rule number 1 in 2024, buddy. Diddy is a terrible human being. I don't think he ever was a good human being, actually. But he made more money, more problems. Okay, yeah. Buddy, a lot has changed in the 5 years. A lot more than you think, actually. Well, while you're explaining all that, do you mind if I watch my favorite streamer, Dr. Disrespect? No, okay, oh, God, yeah, that's a whole other day. I need more time to explain that. Man, everything's so different. Like, I don't even know where to begin with all this. Hey, don't worry, man. We're good. We're all right, you know? You got your buddy, got me, all right? I'm just gonna go through just everything you missed these last 5 years. I know, it's a lot to take in. I mean, seriously, we've managed. We're still here. We're still kicking. But, you know, yeah, it's a lot. I know. What did Mindy Kaling do to Velma? Atrocious, I know. I mean, the dude, I don't even know how it got a second season. I'll be honest with you. And the pandemic. You slept. I mean, seriously, I can't even believe it, but you slept. Oh, man, I mean, this is so much to take in at once, man. But hey, you got your good buddy. I mean, come on. With me by your side, you ain't gonna have to worry about nothing. Hey, what about the people who made Ice Age? I forgot the Ice Age people. What happened to them? They closed in 2021. No, dude, no. That's the worst thing you could have told me, man. Really? Worse than the pandemic in Velma? That's the worst thing? They were doing so good. They had so many good movies. I mean, I counted 5, but okay. Dude, what happened? Money. Dude, I knew it. Money is a bitch, dude. I can understand that. They were closed by Disney. Blue Sky's like a magic trick. Now you see it, now you don't. Blue Sky is one of the craziest examples of a company with potential that was just so squandered. Most of this isn't necessarily Blue Sky's fault, but if you saw their reputation, so it's 15% their fault. I can't truly say I grew up with this company, not because the movies weren't around when I was growing up. Au contraire, the first Ice Age released in March of 2002, just 6 months before I was born. Ice Age is older than me. I don't know how I feel about that. But you're probably wondering, why? Why don't I like these movies as much as others? And more importantly, why didn't they stick with me? The company is older than me. How is this not a company I'm crazy about? I prefer to Owen Wilson. I don't think it's necessarily the quality of these films, but the younger me was a bit more into Pixar and DreamWorks. I'm pretty sure Sony Pictures Animation was more prominent. And they made fucking Open Season. That's not to say Blue Sky doesn't have value, they just don't have value to me. I respect the animators and everyone who sadly lost their jobs because of Disney's savage closing of the company in 2021. But when you're making movies like Ferdinand, don't expect too much. With that said, leading to their closure, they released 13 films between 2002 to 2019. Now, of those 13, I only really liked 5 of them, and the ones behind them I liked, but I had to make a lot of exceptions for. So we're gonna take a look and rank these movies on a scale. What scale? A scale of John Leguizamo's sloth face. I don't want to do this. Oh! Ice Age was the first film to release from Blue Sky. That's bleak. Okay, let me say, I don't hate this movie, but I don't like it either. The film follows a lonely mammoth named Manny, voiced by Ray Romano, going on an adventure through the Ice Age to return a human baby that a lot of people on the internet hated a while back to the hunters who raised him. He's accompanied by Sid the Sloth, voiced by John Leguizamo, and Diego, a saber-toothed tiger, voiced by Dennis Leary. So my problem isn't that the film isn't funny, like, this is some good-ass humor for 2002. My problem really is that the film doesn't establish much on any of these characters, except Manny for maybe like 5 minutes. And those 5 minutes are good, I dare say it's a peek into what Blue Sky could do with more serious scenes, but man, I don't know anything about Sid other than his family duped him. If you heard his voice, you'd understand. Why? And let's just say, Diego is better in the sequels. Like I said, the humor is good in parts, and one good thing about these characters definitely is the chemistry. Romano, Leguizamo, and Leary all have some great lines off each other. And for a first film, I can't argue this isn't a good start. Clearly it did its thing because it made $383.2 million off of a $59 million budget. And it beat out some decent competition. Who would have thought this little animated buddy film could skyrocket a company like this? I mean, it was against the Resident Evil movie. You could put John Carter next to the Resident Evil movie and it still wouldn't make its money back. Even though I don't like it, I see why people do. Why? Oh!
Oh!
Robots was the next film to come from Blue Sky 3 years later in 2005, and by some bullshit analytics, the film did gross a $262.5 million worldwide box office, but it had a much bigger budget this time, about $80 million. And such, this one didn't do nearly the numbers Ice Age did. But hey, when all the Star Wars nerds went to see this movie just to see the trailer for Revenge of the Sith, do you see why I can't stand Star Wars fans? Well, I guess they also could have seen it for the, at the time, insanely popular Ewan McGregor, who also played Obi-Wan Kenobi in the prequels. With that, this movie is way more my style. Following Rodney Copperbottom, a robot voiced by Ewan McGregor, going to the big city to become a famous inventor. But it turns out not everyone can become one these days. The big suits seem to shut down small inventors in favor of inventions that'll make them more money. Take for example, Ratchet, voiced by Greg Kinnear, the guy who takes over for the founder of the company Big Weld, voiced by Mel Brooks. Trust me, Rodney, you're not alone. I tried finding film jobs, but I forgot that I live in Ohio.
Thanks! What? I gotcha!
The humor, the story, the characters, hell, the world is just so good. One of them is voiced by Robin Williams, and this is great! Like, this humor really is something ahead of its time in 2005. I feel like I laughed way more with this than any of the Ice Age movies. The world is just so creative. Like, the city is just oozing with atmosphere. And hey, Obi-Wan ain't too bad as a voice actor. This is sadly like the rest of the Blue Sky lineup, where I really just prefer they got less obvious voices. I admit I didn't recognize Trainspotting here at first, and I forgive Williams because he is funny, but listen to Robot with lady parts here.
Why would robots buy new upgrades if parts are so much cheaper?
She was in Catwoman, but for the humor, the characters themselves, the world, my god, the world, I can forgive this movie thinking Halle Berry was the only thing saving its box office.
Why?
Well, Blue Sky said,
The robots made us broke!
and referred to their old ways with Ice Age 2: The Meltdown. And funny enough, this movie also showed a trailer during Robots' theatrical run, and was simply called Ice Age 2. The Meltdown definitely worked as a title, and as a movie, it's fine. Following our usual pack, finding out that the ice around them is melting, and in due time, they'll all drown. You know, for the kiddies! You see the mammoth kids? He's gonna go extinct, fuck you! So the pack goes on their way to find a way out of their predicament, meeting another mammoth named Ellie, voiced by Queen Latifah, and her two brothers Crash and Eddie, voiced by Sean William Scott and Josh Peck. Again, like the first one, I didn't have much to say about this one. It purely just exists. I think it's better than the first film by a long shot. I think the introduction of Ellie, especially with her being voiced by Queen Latifah, really helps the film. The joke of her thinking she's a possum could get old, but honestly, it never bothered me. The way they kept doing it was actually pretty creative. Her brothers bothered me. I never liked the Possum Brothers. Crash and Eddie are consistently annoying characters who only get worse in each sequel. Which is sad. Josh Peck and Sean William Scott are usually really funny. This was off of Scott's insane run of mid-2000s comedies. And obviously Peck was off of a huge sitcom hit on Nickelodeon. What was it called? Jackson VP? But literally nothing they say, especially later in the franchise, ever made me laugh. They get pity chuckles here. Occasionally they'll have a good bit. But for the most part, Crash and Eddie are tumors on this franchise's run. The Meltdown plot is actually alright, and this movie has a kick-ass climax. If you told me this shot was from Prince of Egypt, I'd buy it. If you told me it was from Ice Age 2, fucking what? As a sequel, this works. I can't say I like it more than Robots, but I can't say I don't like it.
Why?
Blue Sky, how did you expect to stay in business when your thought process was Mike Myers? The guy from The Grinch will do. Funny enough, after the disaster of the 2003 Cat in the Hat movie, Dr. Seuss's widow Aubrey Giesel absolutely prohibited the use of Seuss properties in any live-action format. Such, you can safely say, this movie killed any chance of us ever getting a live-action one fish, two fish, red fish, blue fish movie.
One fish, two
The
fish.
sad thing is, it would have been better than Harold and the Purple Crayon. However, Giesel's prohibition here didn't quite disqualify animated movies, and 5 years later, we did get a Horton Hears the Who animated movie with Jim Carrey and Steve Carell. It's alright. Literally, that's the sum of every Blue Sky movie. It's okay. Like, nothing in this is gonna make me giddy like movies from other companies, but if I had to say, this is probably better than the first Ice Age. That's all there is. It's not as downright cringy as the other Seuss adaptations, especially the ones that came after, but it still doesn't feel like the definitive Seuss experience. You could just read the book at that point. Jim Carrey is literally the only highlight. I can't really say much on Steve Carell's character because he isn't that interesting to me. I guess being voiced by Steve Carell helps him insanely, but other than that, I got nothing on him. It has a song to play us out. Why? Shrek 2 did it. What sucks most is that Horton Hears a Who lends itself the best of all of Seuss's lineup when it comes to a straight-up adaptation. But even shows like Green Eggs and Ham showed how you can be creative with the concept while not going too far off from the source material. What else here, though? It's just kind of okay. There's nothing here that I couldn't just get from reading the book. It's definitely the best Seuss adaptation, but It's average, but I guess I can tolerate it.
Right.
Well, maybe I'll have more fun with Blue Sky's next big film. God damn it. Dawn of the Dinosaurs was the third Ice Age film, releasing 3 years after the last film. And I can safely tell you, this one's the best one. This time, the herd hops on the dinosaur train and goes to Dinosaur Land, where they look for Sid, who gets kidnapped by this big dinosaur who I swear looks like the dinosaur from Meet the Robinsons. With that, they meet Buck, a weasel, who has such a familiar voice. Let me look it up. Thank you, Christ, I didn't realize that's what these movies needed. Sean. I'm so glad he's in this. This one is immediately just so much more interesting, because actual dynamics are introduced. We have Ellie giving birth and such. Manny gives more attention to her because, hey, my sperm is coming out of her anytime soon. But Diego sees this as he doesn't belong with them anymore. Stupidest thing I've ever heard, but regardless, Sid thinks he actually needs to find a family, finds these dinosaur babies, jacks off a yak, and gets stolen by the dinosaur baby's actual mother. All of that happens in the first 20 minutes, and it never feels like it's throwing too much at you. It finally gets its pacing down, and thank God. Sadly, they abandoned that in the sequels, but I also argue this is easily the funniest of the films because Simon Pegg is in it. He can make the Emoji Movie and Open Season funnier just by being there. He doesn't even have to be animated, just put him in the movie. There he is. Oh, he's so much funny. He's Sean. The Dinosaur Land is actually very creative. It's exactly what you expect with a dinosaur land. But the lava areas, the creative use of plants and grass, and my God, where was this creativity in the Meltdown? I suppose there's a few issues. I do think Diego's plot is just a little too dumb. Like, he thinks he's not part of Manny's family. He's not! Like, dude, you are acting like a total dipshit right now. For what? My friend is having a baby. I don't go around moping and doping because my friend gets pussy. It feels completely ridiculous to assume that you're just immediately a part of the family because... What have you done for Manny? Jackass, the most I can remember is you betraying them. Wait, you know what? I'm just gonna put a pin in that. Also, I think this is one of the only of the 5 movies where Scrat just wasn't that funny. It starts off alright with him meeting the female squirrel. And I say female squirrel because her name is just Scrat with like an extra T-E. And I have no idea how to pronounce that against just Scrat. And the plot starts off alright, but it just gets jumbled and just throws whatever. But this is easily my favorite Ice Age movie, and one of my favorite Blue Sky films. It's consistently funny, has charming enough new characters, keeps the personalities of the old characters, and it's just such a fun film.
Right.
Oh!
Colorful, vibrant visuals with likable characters and a very interesting story despite the polar opposite love plot being in almost every other kids film at the time. Party in Ipanema, baby! I love Rio. This is the third in the alleged 5 good movies that Blue Sky made, in my opinion. And man, this is a fun film. Falling Blue, voiced by, I'm pretty sure the only person who can voice an awkward blue macaw, Jesse Eisenberg, as he's taken from his home in quiet Minnesota to the vibrant and colorful Rio de Janeiro, to mate with the alleged last female of his kind, Jewel, voiced by Anne Hathaway. Will they get together despite all odds? There's a sequel. Despite the cliches that I will admit riddle this movie, the characters are so likable. The story is very familiar with its I don't like you and you drive me crazy romance. But something this movie does that a lot of kids' movies that have this plot don't, is that they give time for them to warm up to each other, instead of just saying, I'm not giving you the Jewel-ussy, and then immediately cut to them having little birdies. Dude, they give them time. They make the most of the time they have in the movie. Unfortunately, this is played by will.i.am.
Get it, girl. Get it, girl. Take it.
Why was he in 2 of these animated movies? Black Eyed Peas wasn't that good. You know what? Jamie Foxx was his co-star here, and I can forgive anything involving Jamie Foxx. It's one of those movies that feels just right. The pacing, the humor, the story, it's one of my favorite movies from this company. And while that might not be a huge margin, the fact that I liked it so much, that's saying something.
Right.
Well, following that success, what could possibly be next for this amazing company? You gotta be fucking kidding me. Yes, this is the 4th Ice Age film releasing in 2012, almost 10 years after the first film. Slow down! It took you 10 years to make 4 Ice Age films. It took Pixar 14 to make 2 Incredibles films. But hey, that's because Pixar, I don't know, cares about animation? Actually, I fondly remember enjoying Continental Drift as a wee lad. I was 10 at the time, was obsessed with pirates, especially in movies and TV. Yeah, that's right, I'm a pirate who don't do anything, kid, bitch. But at the time, I loved this movie and thought, man, they really peaked. They made the perfect Ice Age movie. I also liked Cars 2. It's funny because Continental Drift is the exact Ice Age movie where you can pinpoint exactly where they ran out of ideas. So yeah, same song and dance as the first 3. We got the herd, though some new additions include a now teenage Peaches, Manny and Ellie's daughter, voiced by Keke Palmer, and Sid's granny, voiced by Wanda Sykes. When the Continental Drift starts to happen. Yeah, that's right, Christianity doesn't exist in the Ice Age movies, bitch. They celebrate Christmas, though. I refuse to care enough to know how that works. Manny gets split from his family, and they find their way back home, coming across pirates led by Captain Gut. voiced by Peter Dinklage. Continental Drift wasn't quite the worst Ice Age movie. Hell, that one wasn't even Blue Sky. But man, they are scraping for ideas with this plot. Like, the pirates, sure, Peter Pan was onto something, I guess. Diego gets a love interest, sure, everyone else has one. Peaches does teenager things, I mean, we skipped most of her upbringing, I guess it makes sense. Who voices her crush, though? Oh, come the fuck on. It feels like they throw so much in, and unlike Rio, it doesn't add up to anything. The final climax is actually the highlight of the film due to some creative fight scenes between the herd and the pirates, but that's about it. It's mostly overdone jokes, insanely boring setups, and just pure desperation. They really didn't know where to go with this film. I guess it's fine, but it just kind of exists in my opinion. Not good, and not bad.
Right.
Oh!
To the film I completely forgot existed, let alone that Blue Sky had a hand in it, Epic is anything but. I really can't get into this film. Every time it's even mentioned, I'm like, okay, which Forest Civilization movie was that? That was strangely a trend in movies at the time. Epic follows MK, a girl voiced by Amanda Seyfried, as she finds out there's this war going on with these little forest creatures. As Beyonce, actually this is probably the most stacked cast of any of these movies yet. The main four are Seyfried, Beyonce, Josh Hutcherson, and Colin Farrell. On top of that, Blake Anderson, John DiMaggio, Jason Sudeikis, Pitbull, Chris This movie abused its budget for its cast. Don't tell me they got Pitbull in their 2013 animated movie because they were just so sure he'd add charm to the film. No, he released Timber, and if you release Timber, you have to be in a movie called Epic. That name kinda sucks though, because this movie is really anything but. It's so boring. Practically nothing happens. I can't remember a thing past the opening 20 minutes. And you could tell Blue Sky was so confident they could recreate the Will.i.am and Jamie Foxx duo. Because may I introduce you to Mub and Grub, voiced by Aziz Ansari and Chris O'Dowd, two people from two wildly different shows and have no chemistry whatsoever. Christ, at least Toy Story 4 had the audacity to get Key and Peele. Two people we know work together. It feels like the writers watched one episode of Parks and Rec, specifically one where Tom wasn't funny, and then watched the absolute worst episode of IT Crowd they could find and said, what if Tom Haverford and Roy Treneman were slow? That's the whole concept of their characters. They exist purely to attempt to make the kids laugh, and I do mean attempt in a negative way. In all the other cases, I guess this isn't a terrible film overall. There are worse Blue Sky films, but this is certainly one of their most boring.
Right.
Oh!
They could make Ice Age 20 and I still won't be mad the way I was mad at Rio 2. Talk about a bust! I like the first Rio, which might make my hatred for this movie more warranted. Rio 2 is a total botch-up of what could have been a damn good film. How did they make every wrong move? The kids are all one note, Blue is incredibly unlikable here. Oh, and the big plot? Turns out there's other blue macaws, specifically Jules' family. Roberto exists to give Bruno Mars a character in this movie, and I really can't forgive that. The biggest problem is, it butchers what really is one of Blue Sky's strongest films. That's why the Ice Age sequels don't irk me as much. I don't care enough about the movies to have that much of a connection with them. This absolute disaster is up there with another movie we're getting to soon enough, as one of Blue Sky's worst movies.
Right.
Oh!
Thankfully, Blue Sky bounced back a year later with the Peanuts movie, based on the iconic cartoon characters, the Peanuts. I kinda knew I was gonna like this movie because I love the Peanuts specials. A Charlie Brown Christmas is one of my all-time favorite Christmas specials, so a feature-length version of these specials, definitely hype. And I'll say the first thing this movie did just right was its direction on the style of the Peanuts. It does something the Captain Underpants movie did 2 years later, mixing the style of the characters with CG animation. It blends surprisingly well. And that makes the little Peanuts visual gags work much better. Straight up, Charlie Brown is all like, I want this girl to like me. And Snoopy's on his side quest like, holy shit! The Peanuts, unsurprisingly, is charming, fun, and just a cute film. For me, this is one of my personal favorites from Blue Sky.
Right.
So hopefully Blue Sky got their shit together, right? Oh, so when Blue Sky releases Ice Age 5, it's okay, but when I shit my britches in the movie theater, it's a problem. Kiss your ice goodbye. They went to Normandy for this. Yes, this is Ice Age 5. This time they made 5 movies in the time it took Incredibles to make 2. Collision Course is bad, but like I said, I just don't care enough about the Ice Age movies to have a passionate opinion. It's stupid and kind of desperate. They even bring Simon Pegg back. Usually that's a blessing, but it seems like they only brought the Weasel back and none of Pegg's charm. As nothing this man says is funny. They get so desperate they have a Neil deGrasse Tyson cameo for no reason.
Gentlemen, spaghettification is real.
But I will say, if this movie is good for anything, it's shutting your kid the hell up. How do I know this? Well, because I went to this movie on opening day. Yep, I'm one of those moviegoers. I was 14 at the time with my sister, my grandma, and my aunt, and let me tell you, seeing movies in theaters like that made you aware of all movie experiences. Specifically, the rowdy-ass kids. Look, I saw Minions in theaters, and I'm not ashamed of it. Every time that your movie even has a simmer of kids movie energy, you bring your kids, and more than likely, you bring rowdy-ass kids who just can't stay still. Look, I was used to this, and especially at 14, you start to really get sick of kids crying and screaming in movie theaters. Shit, I about elbow dropped this little bitch when I was watching Kung Fu Panda 4, so I fully expected that I wouldn't be able to watch this movie properly. And what did I find? Holy shit! There were 2 solid rows of rowdy-ass kids, and none of them were running around like idiots. All of them were in their seats paying attention to the movie. I don't think that's saying anything good about the movie, and the off chance they specifically released this movie for an anniversary, however, just know you won't have to deal with what I had to deal with when I watched Inside Out 2. Like the 4th film, this is ultimately just a compilation of wacky and funny scenarios with funny and wacky outcomes. This time a meteor is coming at them. Yeah, sure, fuck it. This company only has another 5 years. I hate it, and it's one of the worst in Blue Sky's catalog, but I'm just over these movies.
Why?
Oh!
This movie sucks. Okay, that's a bit harsh, but of all 13 movies from Blue Sky, I have very little to say about this one. It certainly exists, but I don't think it necessarily does more than that. It's a standard average, maybe slightly below average kids movie. I mean it, I have nothing here. I didn't see this one in theaters, and let's just say I didn't miss anything. If I'm being honest, Ferdinand just doesn't do anything for me, but I do get it's a kids movie, like the rest of these. And as kids movies go, it does the job. I've never seen this movie really utilized more than a babysitter for tired parents. But if you're absolutely looking for a movie with John Cena as a bull, this one's up there.
Why?
Oh!
Well, the last official film from Blue Sky was 2019's Spies in Disguise. If you're like me, you saw the trailers and gave 3 audible ha's. This was a weird setup. A super spy named Lance Sterling gets turned into a pigeon and teams up with a lab guy named Walter to save the world. Like, a spy gets turned into a pigeon? It's not like the suave, over-cocky egomaniac getting turned into an animal plot is that new, but none of that matters because this is actually next to Rio as one of my favorites from Blue Sky. Seriously, this is fun. How else can I say it? The team up at the time was very strange. Will Smith obviously was big off of Gemini Man, and Tom Holland, he was in the current war, right? And I was worried the pigeon plot would kill this movie, but honestly, it almost makes the spy stuff that much better. It allows for way better scenarios and creative ones at that. This cast does what clearly the Horton Hears a Who cast tried to do, and make it seem like there weren't celebrities voicing the characters. But if Seth Rogen's in your voice cast, I'm not going to hear a mouse, I'm going to hear Seth Rogen. This cast has Will Smith, Tom Holland, Rashida Jones, Karen Gillan, Reba McEntire, Ben Mendelsohn, Nick Bruno! This cast is great! Except for DJ Khaled, that sucked. The plot is so creative, yet it's just familiar enough where kids will be able to follow along. The only thing I kinda didn't like was A, the certain cliches they didn't play with, and B, the villain. This villain really had potential, and he was voiced by Ben Mendelsohn. He's practically born for these roles. And they set up that he has a dark past with Lance. Dude, this is Blue Sky? It sure is, because they don't do anything with it past that point. And certain cliches like the suave spy being betrayed, that's been done before, and they don't seem to really do anything new with it. That being said, Spies in Disguise was one hell of a way to go out. A fun and unique experience, and one of my favorites from the studio.
Why?
I want to mention, it's always sad that this company, that may not have meant something to me, but meant something to my generation, will sadly never get to make another movie. Their doors have closed. These animators, the people who made these movies possible, while I don't know how many of them bounced back, many of them lost their jobs, their foot in the door. I'm never going to say they deserve it, because they don't. Nobody does. I hope all of the people who were laid off in 2021 are finding their own success and writing their own legacy. Well, I appreciate you looking through these movies with me, man. Makes me think of the good old times, huh? It was 5 years ago, not 50. Well, I mean, I don't really know where to start. I mean, 5 years later, where do I even begin? Hey, you got me though. That's what I'm here for. You know, I'm not gonna let you fail, brother. Well, that's good to know. But hey, at least the MCU ain't dead, right? You are never gonna fucking believe this.